Hi guys, welcome back to the Home and Homestead. If you're new, I'm Rebecca. Today we're going to be doing some freeze drying. We're going to freeze dry some candy and do my favorite flavor of M&Ms, which is the caramel M&M. So these are really tasty to enjoy, just at room temperature. But when you freeze dry them, they puff up nice and big and get crunchy, and they're a fun way to enjoy this flavor of M&M as well. So let's head to the kitchen so we can get our caramel M&Ms ready to be freeze dried. Now for preparing our caramel M&Ms for the freeze dryer, this is all done from the candy being at room temperature. So you can either just put them onto your trays and try to space them apart, or what actually works quite nicely is Harvest Right has these silicone trays that you can put into each of the trays, and it holds 60 items. And then you can put your caramel M&M into each one of these little reservoirs. That way, once the candy expands, it's more contained and it'll have the shape of these little silicone molds. So with these, I'll be able to do 300 caramel M&Ms. So let's get them loaded into these freeze dryer trays and the silicone molds. Alright, so this used up the majority of this party-sized bag of caramel M&Ms. It's a 34-ounce bag. And I just have a small handful left that didn't fit inside of these little silicone molds. So now we'll head over to the freeze dryer and get the settings all programmed in, and we can get these caramel M&Ms freeze dried. Alright, here I have my Medium Pro Harvest Right freeze dryer with the pump off to the right. So if you happen to have the Wi-Fi fob, which you see to the right of my freeze dryer, you can use the Harvest Right app and set the programming for your cycle using the app. Otherwise, I'll show you how to program your freeze dryer right now. So on your freeze dryer screen, you'll have these options: Candy, Custom, and Start. So you'll hit Candy. And the tray loading temperature is 70 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to skip that pre-warm. So we'll zero that out. Dry time is 2 hours and 30 minutes. And the temperature is 150 degrees Fahrenheit. So we'll hit Start. And now the freeze dryer is going into a prep mode. It'll take about 15 minutes. So now I can go get the trays of the prepared candies and get them ready to be loaded into the freeze dryer. Alright, that 15-minute time has finished, so now it tells us to do 3 things. 1, we're going to load the trays into the freeze dryer. 2, we're going to close that drain valve. And then 3, we'll hit continue. So let's load our candy into the freeze dryer. Now we're going to close the drain valve. Currently it's open, so the valve is parallel to the drain. And now the drain valve is closed and the valve is perpendicular to the drain. And now we can hit continue. And we're going to be skipping this pre-warming, so we'll hit skip. And now the freeze dryer will begin to freeze dry our caramel M&Ms. So we'll come back when this process is finished. Alright, our caramel M&Ms have finished the freeze drying process. So now we have a few things that we need to do. 1, we need to open that drain valve to vent. Then we are able to open the door and make sure that our candy looks the way that we want. Then once that's finished, we can either do a no defrost, start another batch of candy, or have the machine defrost itself. So I'll open that drain valve. And then we can open the door and have a look at our caramel M&Ms. And as you'll see, flashing on the screen, it says caution, trays are hot. So you may want to use some hot pads when removing your trays from the freeze dryer. these look nice and puffed up. A couple of them haven't, but a vast majority looks like have. This whole tray has. So now I'm just going to hit defrost. And now the machine will go through its own defrost process, and this takes about 2 hours. You can also add time to the defrosting by adjusting the arrows on the screen. So we'll hit continue. And now the machine is defrosting. So now let's go have a closer look at our freeze-dried caramel M&Ms. All right, here we have our freeze-dried caramel M&Ms. And it looks like 6 of them haven't puffed up like the rest. And on this last little cube here, I put 2 of the caramel M&Ms together. So you can see that if you don't use a mold like this to keep them separated, they can touch one another, and then you have to kind of pry them apart. And then they're not quite as cute of a shape, but it still works. So that's something to think about if you do a lot of freeze drying, if you want to start doing some more candy. When you do items like this that puff up real big, having this silicone mold has really helped improve the consistency of a nice puffed up candy without sticking to the neighboring pieces. So now what I'm going to do is allow these to cool just a little bit, and then I'll get them into my storage containers. So what I like to do for my freeze-dried candy is I put some of them in a clamp top glass jar. This works well. You can just open it and remove a few and snack on them, and it keeps them pretty fresh that way. And then the remainder of them I like to store in my Rubbermaid takeaways, and that helps keep them fresh and crunchy for a nice amount of time. If we wanted to store these longer term, we could certainly put them in mylar bags, and then they would keep for an extended period of time. But I know we're going to enjoy these and eat these up, so I'm going to store them in my glass clamp top jar in my airtight container, and then we'll have a nice crunchy snack to enjoy. So I'm going to get these into their storage containers, and we can have a closer look at our end result of our freeze-dried caramel M&Ms. All right, here we have our freeze-dried caramel M&Ms. So I have about 1 tray's worth in this little clamp top jar here, and then I have the remainder in my Rubbermaid takeaway container. So we'll have some tasty little caramel snacks to enjoy. Now these caramel M&Ms really puffed up, and they resulted in this nice airy and crunchy candy that has some wonderful caramel flavor. So if you enjoy the chocolate and caramel combination in caramel M&Ms, this makes a wonderful freeze-dried candy as well. And you want to try out doing some freeze-dried candy, this might be a nice way to start out. Or if you already are doing some freeze-drying of candy, this might be a nice addition to some other items you're already enjoying. So if you're getting into freeze-drying and you want to know items that are helpful during that process, I do feel that these silicone molds are a nice addition for when preparing items to be freeze-dried. It works wonderfully for candy such as this. You can also do herbs and do little blocks of various items that you want to keep in a nice uniform shape and size for storing away. So if you're new to the freeze-drying process or want to find out more information on freeze-drying, I do have some links in the description below the video, so be sure to check those out if you'd like more information, or if you're interested in other accessories and items for freeze drying. I also have a number of videos where I go through the freeze drying process of various items, from herbs to snacks and treats. It's a really versatile food preservation technique. You can do full meals and meal ingredients, so it's a really wonderful way to preserve a large quantity of food for an extended period of time. If you're interested in other ways to preserve your harvest or food, I do have a food preservation playlist, as well as numerous recipes and DIY projects on my channel, so be sure to check those out. And if you're new to the channel or haven't done so yet, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe. So please be sure to hit that subscribe button below and continue to watch my channel, The Home and Homestead, for some more homemade, homegrown, and home-style inspiration. Well, I surely hope that you're having a wonderful day. See you next time. Take care.